Dr. Christian Heinrich, thank you very much for joining us. Really interested to talk to you about the ESG tech market. I think you've got a really interesting story to talk about, both with your present business and a previous business that you've done. So my first question to you was, what's your personal tech background?
Yeah, hi Simon, great talking to you and talking a little bit about my background and the status quo, and hopefully also about the future. My personal tech background started already in university when I studied computer science. In Germany, it's called business informatics. It's not hardcore coding. It's really, let's say, automation, SaaS oriented. You name it, Workday, you name it, SAP. All those workflow-oriented enterprise SaaS solutions. And then I had to implement that also together with a lot of external consultants at a chemical company called BASF. 4.5 years, it was a supply chain planning tool, advanced planning tool for demand planning, supply planning, S&OP planning, integrated financial business planning. So vertical through the company. The company has more than 500 plants distributed globally. You can imagine how complex the supply chain is. And yes. Then I also started as a co-founder Carbmee. It was an AI-based supplier scouting solution, procurement solution, where we also combined AI plus workflows for RFPs and tender processes. And right now, yeah, I am co-founder of Carbmee, where I like to combine the industrial B2B expertise about domain expertise about processes, production processes, but also procurement and environmental footprint. And this is it where I am right now.
Focusing particularly on Carbmee, what was it that motivated you to found the company?
Good question, easy to answer, to be honest. I hear the question very often, but I cannot imagine that I can get more impact out of my Monday to Friday or Monday to Sunday, depends, work, because our overall North Star KPI is carbon under management and carbon reduction. And this is important from us. And the more companies using our Carbmee environmental intelligence system, the more companies have their own carbon under management, and then they can start the reduction process. So this is definitely something you can then also tell your grandchildren, to be honest. So that's what motivates me.
Yeah, no, interesting to hear that, your purpose is not just running a profitable company, but actually creating a legacy.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the positive side effect is then also that you generate more revenue the more companies are using your software. But that's right. Yeah.
So what were your biggest challenges in launching Carbmee?
I mean, it's always challenging to launch a company, and depending also in the company in the country you are launching it. I mean, the good thing in Europe, starting in Europe, is that we had two things which are definitely not, you cannot take them as given. So first of all, we have many, let's say, industrial companies, may it be the automotives, the process industries, the chemicals, the pharmaceuticals, etc. Also machine building industries. And also they had already the digital transformation wave done. And then we have regulations out of Europe. UK is also not too far away from that perspective, like the plastic border tax, just as an example. And this is a new business model also for countries. Yeah, this is the green economy, or however you will call it. Also in the US, we have the SEC. So nevertheless, and saying that, it's already very difficult because you need to be a little bit regional specific. Yeah, the country X has this law, the other country Epsilon has this law. At the end, everybody is under the same umbrella called IFRS from an accounting perspective. But this needs to be understood. And I think that's the biggest challenge here, that we have so many target personas. And the market is developing from a regulational pressure and a customer pressure, not from our customers, rather the customers of our customers, so fast that it is sometimes too fast for the companies, because some organizations are bigger, some are smaller, and they need just to become educated and feel really safe regarding, okay, now I understood what hardcore problem from a, let's say, data precision and accuracy you are solving, and this also automated, so we cannot even believe that we don't need to send out surveys anymore. I think that was or still is sometimes the biggest challenge to educate the market, and at the end also to help the market for their success and not making wrong decisions and believing in old big software providers showing some roadmaps, and it's maybe even takes more time until the Berlin airport is ready. So this is at the end the biggest challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a follow-up question to that then, obviously regulation is certainly impacting businesses' desire to look at carbon management. So how much of it is driven by law, and how much of it is driven by companies wanting to do the right thing in terms of managing their carbon and their impact on the climate change, of course?
It's a very good question, especially related to the previous question. So I could also say, as of today, we would not even need regulations anymore. I think the complexity is the different time framing. So let's say investors like BlackRock or also Warren Buffett and Berkshire, they anticipate what is happening in the next 5 to 15 years with their portfolio. That's the reason why they did a portfolio optimization, or they send out the letters to their CEOs. You have to decrease carbon, otherwise you maybe are delisted from the stock market, or you lose tremendous market cap. So this is one thing. Saying that, there was a pressure, and they anticipate that there are some carbon taxes coming. No one knows exactly. Is it a carbon border tax just for aluminium steel? Is it a carbon tax like a VAT we have on everything? Yeah, like we have to do the accounting. Doesn't matter. So even if today there is not a real hard penalty, only the certificates are in the market and it's a capped market, but everybody right now is aware that carbon is kind of a new currency, and this is the big game changer, maybe created because of the anticipation of the big investors like BlackRock, Berkshire, etc., because they have educated already the boards and the C-level, and right now the next level is coming. So at the end, it doesn't really matter if UK, for example, just has started with plastic border tax, and maybe Spain and Italy is doing the same, and the carbon border tax is kicking in 2024, 2023, or 2026. And is it then 8% or 15%? It's not relevant anymore. Right now, everybody understood, and I think that's also the big differentiator to the S and the G. So the E thing is real cost thing, cost avoidance, cost savings, or generating more beneficial benefits in the business. And that's the thing. Yeah. So even if we have 0% or 5% real hardcore penalties on carbon right now, it's changing as of next year, for example, because everybody needs to do the reporting for CSRD, and also I think companies bigger than 40 million revenue only, which are really small from that perspective.
It's interesting to hear. And actually, just picking up on the theme of investors, I'm interested in your view on the current funding landscape for SaaS software providers, particularly startups and scale-ups. I just wondered what your view of the landscape is currently.
That's a good question. I mean, it's a little bit with the real estate market. Yeah? I mean, it came also a little bit down. I mean, that's clear because of inflation of Ukraine, and if inflation, then definitely the money is not that cheap anymore. So it's definitely, but it also was too overheated, let's say, the last 2 or 3 years. So I'm totally fine with that. What we see in general, and this also means more work to the VCs or the PEs or the growth investors, they need to do really more proper due diligences, which is fine. And it's also not that easy anymore for them, because that's not a no-brainer thing. So it means the next round will come. So it's at the end very healthy for the overall ecosystem, and I'm a big fan of that. Maybe it's also a question to the VCs. I mean, a lot of new VCs came into the market also in the last years, because it sounded like, cool, it's easy, let's just make money and invest something. We always can make 10 or 30x, whatever. And this changed massively right now, which is in generally very healthy. And then at the end here, the best entrepreneur also from the venture market, let's say, will win. Yeah. So you need really to have, again, some not too much risk aversion. Also, you need really to be sometimes risky, but you need to have your data points and some gut feeling, and at the end the experience will win. So that's very interesting to see also in the conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's a lot of commentary out there about the role of private equity and venture capital in software at the moment. So just looking at the wider ESG tech market, there seems to have been, a proliferation of solutions come to the market. But I was just interested in your view on how successful all those firms are being and how receptive customers are to buying those solutions right now.
I'm very closely related to Gartner, for example, and talking to the analysts, and they have various analysts, not only the CIO perspective, also the ESG experts. Let's say we are coming from an ESG market, and there are also established players for holistic ESG solutions, then including, let's say, for example, Supply Chain Act, etc. And right now, what is happening is that especially the E has a more intense focus since this year. That's what I am seeing. Last year, it was also still the S and the G and the other topics. And then people are realizing what is, or they are asking themselves the question, what is an ESG solution? Also from software perspective, in which area of the sub areas do I need really automation? Where do I have transactions behind versus where do I only need at the end a nice PowerPoint, which could be a dashboard? But at the end, you don't need a dashboard. You also can take just a PowerPoint. And this is what is really changing. And I think that's my summary. And right now, the E is definitely focused by companies or associations like Science Based Target Initiative, CDP, and everybody has the big challenge in the E's, because I mean it's also cool to make surveys, but a survey is just a survey, and it's definitely not let's say a neutral opinion. It's just in the favor of this person who is filling it out. Sometimes I am also part-time professor. Fake it till you make it is easy possible with a survey. If you have hardcore data calculation, the data can usually not lie.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I've noticed there are a lot of carbon accounting solutions now on the market, a lot of startups and scale-ups. Interestingly, Germany seems to be a hotbed for the software solutions, although there are some based in other parts of Europe and the US. So I just wondered how you differentiated Carbmee from these competitors.
I mean, that's already in the question is the answer, because you ask for carbon accounting solutions, and we in general, as Carbmee is a carbon reduction solution, and for us, the end product is a nice carbon accounting, which hopefully is better than the carbon accounting from last year. Two things. We are coming from bottom-up calculation, and carbon accounting solutions usually start top-down.
Sure.
The cool thing is with the bottom-up calculation, you can drill down, you can disaggregate, and you can also connect the different departments. For example, a R&D department or a chief operations officer or a site manager, they need a product carbon footprint, which usually needs carbon data. Then you have procurement organizations, they need their supplier carbon footprint. They definitely do not need all the data, just an extract out of it. And then at the end, the CFO or the sustainability head of ESGs, they need to do their carbon accounting, and they need the corporate carbon footprint. They need at the end a high-level aggregation of everything the other departments had consumed or caused. And this is at the end the analogy of an ERP system for carbon management. Yeah.
So in terms of your customers, what would you describe as your number one challenge with customers? And before you answer the question, I'm going to ask you, would you give me the same answer if I'd asked you the same question 12 months ago?
Definitely not. So I can maybe start with the answer 12 months ago.
Okay.
So 12 months ago, it was, what is scope 3 and how important is scope 3? Today is scope 3 is very important. Unfortunately, especially in B2B companies, it's sometimes between 70 and 95% of the overall emissions. They understood it completely. Right now, it's the question, how can I achieve the most granular data? And I see already the side comment in an automated way, because they understand I have 30,000, 100,000 suppliers with, let's say, 1 to 3 million transactions, purchasing transactions, just speaking about that. I cannot do that manually. And This is what is going on right now. How can I do the supplier collaboration? How can I do the supplier engagement process automated without sending out surveys and annoying the suppliers? I think that's the biggest challenge of my customers.
It's really interesting to see how in 12 months, it sounds like customers are starting from a more educated point. They understand what Scope 3 is. They know they need to deal with it. And now it's a question of how rather than why or what.
100% agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of your sales cycle, have you seen that change in terms of its duration in the past 12 months?
Yeah, definitely. Also, I mean, according to the, let's say, very, very fast education of the market, and it's a mix of everything. Yeah, there are consultants out there who did a great job last year regarding decarbonization roadmaps and strategies, but there's also a lot of PR around it, and I think also the organizations in itself have established right now working groups, departments. So definitely it's decreasing heavily, and what we also see is tender processes are kicked off for software tools, especially with a focus on the on the carbon. So that's definitely very interesting to see.
So your sales cycles are getting shorter then, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, usually you have around about 9 months sales cycles in B2B enterprise, and they are getting shorter more and more. And I mean, it depends then if it's an RFP or a tender, then you have usually still 6 to 8 months. But we see also decision makers right now closing within 2 or 3 months.
That's really interesting to hear, actually, because I think, with the wider economic climate being what it is, that in a lot of cases, we're seeing sales cycles actually lengthen with SaaS solutions because businesses are reluctant to commit and providers are struggling with no action. So It's interesting to see that that's very much contrasting with your experience.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, we had this last year because the market was not ready. There was inflation. I think there was some budget freeze last year between February and April because of the Ukraine crisis. And you see that then also at the end of the year, and then you have the Supply Chain Act topics. But for me, the hypothesis was at the end confirmed that carbon is really even more intense and a bigger challenge than just the digital transformation, because carbon costs money. We have cost of capital. We are doing right now our business cases and costs of carbon. I mean, this will become, and our partners, EY, Deloitte, etc., I think they are more than happy. They have right now business for the next 10 to 20 years without being innovative, because everybody right now needs carbon accountants and not just accountants. So that's then the big game changer, and that's also the differentiator to the rest of the ESG. I think the carbon thing has a special role in it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was interesting to hear. It's a whole new stream of business for the consultants. So, what are your expectations for the SaaS market as a whole for the rest of this year?
That, if I would know that, to be honest, but I can, let's say, I can try to describe it a little bit. At the end, money is there to get deployed, and the funds, etc., also need to deploy the money any time. At the end, most brave fund can then act first, and we see already things are going on, because that's the beauty on globalization and digitization at the end. I mean, we see more happening, but we also see the results, or the end of all the big things which are happening is also faster. So I think that it will kick off slightly like the real estate market, similar. So definitely it's still not we are not going back to the pre-inflation phase or COVID phase, maybe end of COVID and pre-inflation phase. That's the same time zone. But I think it's normalizing already and balancing a little bit, and then it will increase, and then it's, as always, I mean, human behavior, it's then normal, and then I think it's faster back to normal than we expect, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it's good to hear a relatively optimistic point of view, and I think that's shared by a lot of people that we speak to as well. Well, listen, it's been absolutely fantastic spending some time with you. Thank you very much for answering the questions, and I'm sure that our readers and watchers will find this really, really insightful. So thank you once again for your time. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much, Simon.